Hey everybody, Rick here from Save vs. BS. Now, I want to talk about the power of description. Most dungeon masters describe way too much. They think that detail equals immersion. They start every scene like they're narrating a real estate listing. The room is 20 feet wide, stone walls, single torch sconce, circular table with iron chairs. Stop. You don't need to build every brick. You just need to light the spark that lets their imagination do the heavy lifting. So here's the secret that nobody tells you. When you describe something in just a few words, every person at the table pictures it differently, and that's a good thing. That's the most intimate connection you can make with your players. You're sharing ideas, not a diagram. Let's say you're describing a room, and you say, you enter a Gothic bedroom decorated for business. Now, immediately, each person sees their own vision. One imagines velvet and candles, and another iron chains and a ledger. And that's immersion. And not because you painted the room perfectly, but because you invited them in. Now, instead, let's just say you enter a Gothic bedroom. There's a vanity dresser and a circular couch, a bat in a cage, and a fire burning in the fireplace. You've just taken their vision and you've crumpled it up and replaced it with your own. Congratulations, they are no longer imagining. They're auditing your description. Now, I learned this the hard way. I used to write pages and pages of environmental notes. Every corridor had a smell. Every room had a list of furniture. I'd read it out loud like a stage play, waiting for someone to be impressed, and nobody ever was. The players would nod politely, and then they'd say, "Can I roll perception?" And that's how you know you've failed. When the players are listening for keywords instead of meaning. I thought I was being immersive, but really, I was choking their imagination with my own. So I stopped. If a player says, "I checked the mantle," then the mantle exists. If the player says, "I poke at the fire," well, now there's a fire in a fireplace. Their curiosity creates the world, and I fill it with consequences. What's really happening here is trust. When you describe less, you're telling your players that your imagination matters as much as mine does. You're not their tour guide, you're their co-author. They don't need you to show them everything, they need you to give them the permission to see. And yeah, it takes a little bit of control out of your hands, and that's really the point. When you loosen the grip, the table tightens its focus because suddenly every word matters. When you say the smell of copper, everyone freezes because they know it's important, because they know you don't waste words, and restraint breeds attention. Now, here's the deeper layer. Every time you leave an open space, the players fill it with pieces of themselves. You say you see a child's drawing on the wall, they imagine the kind of drawing that haunts them. Stick figures, blood, whatever their brain supplies. It's always more personal than anything you could have described. And that's horror. That's the beauty of storytelling. When you over-describe, you give them the information. When you under-describe, you give them ownership. It's the same principle painters use with negative space. What isn't there is what defines what it is. If you paint the whole canvas, the viewer has nowhere to stand. So let's make this practical. Here's how to describe less without sounding lazy. You anchor the mood, not the map. You start with an emotion. You walk into a room that feels used up. You walk into a place that was once loved, but not anymore. Let the tone steer what the players imagine. Prep secrets, not scenery. In your notes, write what the room means. Treasure, danger, clue, consequence, whatever. That's what matters. Furniture is flavor, and flavor can be improvised. Reward imagination. If they describe interacting with something that makes sense for that secret, give it to them. No rolls, just yes. They shaped the fiction, now you pay them for it. This method keeps exploration organic and strangely alive. When you're not reading a novel at them, you're discovering the world with them. And I've said that a million times. But there are times when you should describe in detail, when the room itself is the message, the ritual chamber, the crime scene, the monster's lair, the throne room of a dying king. These are the moments you earn by keeping everything else lean. So if every other room is ornate, nothing stands out. If most rooms are just sketched in the shadow, then the ones that you paint in the light They will burn into the player's memory. A dungeon master is an illusionist. Your job isn't to show the whole trick, it's to make them believe that there's more behind the curtain than they will ever see. When you stop over-describing, players start leaning forward. They want to fill in the blanks. They think there's a secret behind every wall, even if you haven't even written one. That's when the magic happens. When your players imagine more world than you built, because now they're emotionally invested in a fiction that feels infinite. It's the oldest illusion in the world. Leave them wanting just a little bit more. So, next time your players open a door, don't drown them in details. Don't be a tour guide. Be a ghost in the wall. Say just enough to spark the image, then shut up. Watch how fast the room fills itself. You'll hear it. That quiet moment when everyone at the table is seeing something different, but they're all feeling the exact same thing. That's art. My name is Rick. This is Save versus BS. Like, subscribe, do all the things, and I'll see you in the dark.